Hello, my name is Emma Tobias, and welcome to my favorite books I read in 2017 video. A very perfunctory video, but a video that's really fun to make regardless. I am very happy today. I'm happy because it's 2018. I'm happy because I'm wearing a vintage dress from the 1950s and I'm wearing red lipstick and it's a Tuesday. All these things make me happy. I am very excited to do this video and talk about my favorite books that I read this year. I read 38 books this year, which was good for me considering the fact that I graduated college, I started grad school, I had a lot of emotional, physical, mental turmoil this year, but in general, my reading year was pretty great. I read a lot of really great books. So I'm going to talk about a few of them. I don't know how many because I don't feel like counting, because I don't do math, because I'm cool. Not really, I'm just lazy. The first book I want to talk about is Bright Lines by Thani Nandini Islam. This book is a literary fiction novel about a family who has moved from Bangladesh after the Bangladesh Liberation War to Brooklyn, New York, and it's set many decades later. It is about the mother and the father and their daughter, but I would argue that the central main character is Ella. Ella is the niece of the parents in the novel. Her parents were very close friends and related to the parents in the novel who have passed during the Bangladesh Liberation War due to that war. It's about Ella discovering herself, I would say, and it's about the parents also discovering themselves and the daughter discovering herself, but Ella's discovery is really interesting. Ella is a queer character. She is trying to figure out her sexuality and how she identifies in terms of her gender. This book is a beautiful portrayal of culture and family and gender and sexuality, and that fluidity and what that looks like in terms of Ella's life. It's really beautiful and heartbreaking and really arresting, if you will. I thoroughly enjoyed this book. It broke me in so many ways, but also was so interesting to read a novel that felt very familiar, but also was about people who were coming from a completely different cultural background than me, and I learned so much while reading this book, and also I felt like I could really connect with the characters. It was beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. I don't see enough people talking about it. The next book I want to talk about is Turtles All the Way Down by John Green, a book that's been talked about a lot, and I'm sure is on a lot of people's favorites of 2017 list. I was very skeptical going into this book. I was like, I don't know if I'm going to like it because I don't always really like John Green's writing. But I was really pleasantly surprised, and I was really happy to read a book featuring a main character with obsessive-compulsive disorder, written by someone who has obsessive-compulsive disorder. OCD is a disorder that I think a lot of people think they know what it's like. People who don't have the disorder think they understand what it is and can sometimes misrepresent it. So it was very exciting to read a book that felt very realistic as someone who has OCD and has a lot of obsessive tendencies. I was just blown away. Reading this book was like reading my brain at my worst point in my life, so it was kind of hard at times, but Aza, I don't remember her name, Aza's brain and how she thought and how she thinks felt so just hard-hitting, gut-wrenchingly real to me, and I was like, I've had those thoughts, I felt that way, I felt like what I was thinking would never leave me, and I felt like I was going to be stuck in this thought tunnel, in this thought tornado forever. So I really, really appreciated this book. I don't know if I would have liked it as much if I hadn't had that connection, because I thought the book at times was a little bit, I don't know, like, slow, but not in a way that I necessarily enjoyed, if that makes sense. But I really loved Aza, so I think that's probably a huge reason why I loved this book. So yeah, Turtles All the Way Down. Also, I really liked Aza's friendship with her friend, who I can't remember the name of. That also felt very realistic to me, and is something that I have experienced in my life with my friends when I've been in my worst place. So yeah, great book. Really liked it. Alright, next book. is a book I don't have with me also, and that is Shrill by Lindy West. This is a book of essays by Lindy West, who is a cultural writer. She's on This American Life quite often on NPR. This book is about so many things. I guess the main topics of conversation are feminism, being fat, and dealing with the internet, I would say, are the three like most prevailing themes in this book. She talks a lot about being trolled online for speaking out and being a feminist, talking about fat phobia in America, talking about these issues that I feel like tend to be swept under the rug or we kind of ignore. I really love this book. It made me weep so hard. She has a really beautiful chapter about grief that was just heart-wrenching and wonderful and so real. This book is super funny and super honest, and I loved it. And if you haven't read it, I would give it a read. In a similar awesome lady writing book vein, I have Year of Yes by Shonda Rhimes. I've talked about this book a little bit, so I'm going to be fairly brief, but I love this book so much. Shonda Rhimes is the showrunner for shows like How to Get Away with Murder and Scandal and Grey's Anatomy. And this book is about Shonda Rhimes saying yes for a year, or saying yes to herself for a year, which I thought was really awesome. Saying yes means sometimes saying no. Saying yes sometimes means throwing yourself into a situation that is scary and nerve-wracking. I loved this book. I thought it was powerful and beautiful, and Shonda Rhimes talks a lot about being different in Hollywood, being a woman of color in Hollywood, being a woman of power in Hollywood, and I thought it was just so fascinating to read a woman who has so much strength and power in her career and in her world of Shonda Land and on these television shows, talking about being vulnerable and talking about what she has to deal with, and also sharing her story of saying yes. I thought it was powerful and beautiful and wonderful, and you should give it a read. It's a great early year read of 2018, but also a great any time of the year read. And another book in the similar badass lady vein is Bad Feminist by Roxane Gay. This is a book of essays written about feminism, about race, about gender, about living in America, about politics, about art and television and pop culture, and she crosses a very large gamut but does it seamlessly and beautifully. I loved this book. I loved it so much. I learned so much while reading it, but I also laughed, and I also thought, and I also experienced it in a very vivid way, and I just loved it, and I feel like everyone should read Bad Feminist. I hit my head with the book. It's all good. The next book I want to talk about is a book that captured my soul, and that is Age of License, a travelogue by Lucy Nicely. I read this in the spring, and the spring is my favorite time of year. I think it's because I have seasonal affective disorder, so the winter is just garbage, and then spring happens, and I'm like, the sun shines back, and I can, at least get over that aspect of my depression. But I really loved this book. It was beautiful and just gorgeous. I'm saying the same words over again, but I love Lucy Nicely's drawing style. I'm so inspired by her work. I'm inspired by the way that she packages these little beautiful moments that happen in her life, and I love this book. It's about travel, it's about love, it's about heartbreak, it's about finding yourself and a new place and finding yourself within yourself, if you will. That's cheesy, but also kind of true. I love this book so much, and I really love Lucy Nicely in general, but this book is definitely my favorite of hers. The next book I want to talk about, I will be brief because a lot of people have talked about this book, and that is Big Little Lies by Lane Moriarty. I loved this book so much. A lot of people have read this book because it was turned into an HBO miniseries that's becoming a regular series, which is kind of nonsense. But miniseries was also really great, arguably even better than the book, which is kind of a controversial statement, but I like what they did with the series a lot. This book, in the most non-spoiler way of talking about it, good God, is to say that this book is about a group of very complex women, real-life human women who are dealing with their lives and dealing with the horrible parts of their lives and the good parts of their lives and connecting with each other. Yeah, it's about women. That's, I think, the best way that I can describe it. It's about real women who feel very whole and honest and real. So the last two books I want to talk about are YA books that I really loved. The first book is, I Hate Everyone But You by Gabby Dunn and Allison Raskin. This book is about two best friends who are going to college on opposite ends of the country. It's told through it's told through emails, which are electronic letters, emails, and text messages. And it's about these two best friends dealing with their first year of college, dealing with their friendship, dealing with things that are happening in their lives. It has really great own voices rep. It involves a character who is queer and a character who has OCD. It's really wonderful and smart and funny, and I just loved it so much. I love a book about a female friendship, so this was right up my alley, and it just completely charmed me, and I can't wait to see what they write next, or if they're going to write something next, I hope they do. The last book on my list is My Lady Jane, which is a YA novel written by Cynthia Han, Brody Ashton, and Jody Meadows. This book is the most fun book I read in 2017. It is a sort of historical fiction novel about Lady Jane Grey, and it is a delight. It is so much fun. It combines fantasy and romance and action and adventure. It's just a really fun book. I would encourage you to read it. I don't really have much else to say about it except for it was fun, and it featured a really great cast of characters who had really wonderful points of view. It didn't take itself too seriously. It was sort of Monty Python-esque. It was biting, but also goofy, and I just loved it, and everyone should read it. And it was sexy in a way that I thought was done very well, that was appropriate. I just loved it. I loved it. That is my best books I read of 2017 list. I plan on putting out a books that I was disappointed in video because I actually have a couple that I want to talk about. So yeah, I hope you guys had a really lovely day. I plan on making more videos this year. I plan on making videos that make more sense this year. I don't know. We'll see what happens. The year is young, literally. So, anyway, bye.